will be the most thigh I've ever shown online, unless you find my OF. It was a desperate time, guys. What's up, guys? I wanted to have more of a open conversation with you. I think we've lost the plot a bit with self-improvement. When I'm saying self-improvement, I'm also referencing spirituality in here, pop psychology, productivity, habits, anything you would consume content on with the intention of feeling different. My intention is not to make this video for like an algorithm and get millions of views. My intention is that this really helps and has an impact on a few of you, and can potentially save you years of going down the wrong direction, spiraling, and maybe just changes your perspective on a few things, okay? Self-improvement, if you're not careful, can make you self-absorbed. I think it's a very fair critique. At the extreme of self-improvement, your whole life becomes about you. Am I improving? Am I leveling up? Am I maximizing my time? Am I going after my goals? Why do I feel this way about my thoughts and my beliefs and my stories? And you know what the fastest way to feel better is? Taking the focus off of you, giving. Like, you ever volunteered or you ever hung out with a younger brother or a nephew or kids? Like, when you're not focused on yourself, you forget about yourself, and you're just so focused on like having fun and serving that your problems, they fade away, at least for the moment. Even take the common advice, you are the average of the top 5 people you hang around most. Very common advice. But if you're obsessed with that advice, it perverts relationships from a pure thing of I like hanging around these people to now flipping it as networking opportunities to level up. Oh, I can't hang around these people because they're not leveling me up. How do I hang out with people that are higher status than me so I can level up myself? That's a hollow way to view relationships, because it's going in with like, what can I get? This is why I stopped going to Masterminds. It just became this giant, for lack of a better word, pissing match where you're separated literally by tables based on the amount of income you're making per month. Not even kidding. I saw people who took this advice of like, your time is the most valuable asset. Again, self-improvement advice, right? Like, calculate your hourly worth and don't do anything that's not that. I've seen people who, you know, others idolize and look up to, value themselves and their time so much that when they're having a conversation with someone, as soon as they realize that person can't do anything for them, they literally walk away. They're like, or I've been on the other end of that, where people only want to be around you because you got over 1 million YouTube subscribers. Hey, you want to go to dinner? Maybe the point here is humility gets lost if we're so focused on becoming our best self that we forget that we're just like everyone else at the core. We all have the same worth as humans. You know, because you make more money doesn't mean you're worth more as a person. It just means your hourly rate's higher. What you get into to ideally become a better person, you know, some people can take that and then it becomes evidence for why they're better than others. That's the self-absorption I'm talking about there. And I guess maybe people don't get into this because they're trying to be the best versions of themselves. You know, some people get into it because they want to make a lot of money, or they want to look a certain way, or they want to get laid, or they want to get ripped. And we can't judge anyone's motivation. In fact, I've been in those camps at earlier stages of my development. But the purpose is to evolve beyond it. You can't live your life calculating every single opportunity cost for your time. Some of the best things in life aren't worth your time, but they're fulfilling. The next critique, self-improvement gives you an artificial rule book for yourself. And if you approach your life this way, it creates what's called conditional happiness. If I do X, I can feel Z. So if I check all the boxes from everything the self-improvement videos told me to do, then I can feel productive, accomplished, progressing, happy, fulfilled. What's dangerous about that is now you have conditions to feel certain ways. What's even more dangerous are the days that you don't do it, you now feel guilty. And what's supposed to be positive, self-improving, improving yourself and feeling good about yourself, turns detrimental real quick. And it's a 180 backspin to now you have all this ammunition and evidence for what you're not doing. Some people's rule book is I only deserve to enjoy life when I have $1 million. Other people, it's I only deserve to feel lovable when I'm in a relationship. But the question is, who's writing the rules? Are they even your rules, or are they someone else's? Who says that you deserve to feel a certain way only if you do a 20-step morning routine and sit in an ice bath for 8 minutes and do breath work and meditate all before 5 a.m. And by the time you're done, you're so depleted of willpower, you're just like, now I have to go do a full 9-hour shift, and then I have to build a business because some assholes telling me if I'm not a millionaire by 26, I failed. It never ends. Like, I'll tell you a brief personal story if that's cool. I don't have many regrets, but like one that I do have came from in my 20s. My earliest dream, since I can remember, was being a rock star. Like playing shows, international shows, sold out shows, being a drummer for a band. I literally got that in my 20s. And we were on this one tour in the UK with a sick double-decker tour bus playing big like O2 arenas. It was literally my childhood dream, and I get chills even thinking about it. And I didn't enjoy it. I was so hell-bent on the next thing, it took me out of the moment. Because in between shows, I was so stressed, well, how am I going to build my business? Because, I gotta, and so I would literally get up at like 3 a.m. Time zones are all crazy. And I'm sitting in the double-decker tour bus, like shaking, going down London Road, trying to like optimize my little ClickFunnels. And looking back on it, I'm just like, dude, go have fun. You're obsessed with making it. Buddy, you made it. You literally got what you asked for, and you're so hell-bent on the next thing, the next benchmark, you're taking yourself out of the thing you said you would be so stoked on. And I'm so glad I like reflected on that early, because there were tours where I wasn't focused on like the next thing, the next milestone, checking boxes. And I was able to enjoy it and have fun because I took away all these rules of what I had to be doing. If I can give you any advice, it would be don't let self-improvement give you a list of rules and conditional happiness you have to subscribe to. Otherwise, you don't deserve to feel a certain way. Throw that all out, because that's how you miss out on life. Self-improvement is not a flex off of who can have the most toys. And if you're feeling that self-improvement is sucking the fun from you, we should really reassess the goal of why we're doing it in the first place. Because the goal of life to just be this stoic robot who has no emotion and is all obsessed over status and significance and making money. Like, I don't know, man. Having a lightheartedness and loosening up and chilling out, I think is like so underrated. And if you're so focused on optimizing your time and being busy and being productive, you're going to lose out on all the chill and all the fun that life has. You might have some moments like I did where you get exactly what you want. You can't enjoy it because you're so focused on the next thing and the next goal. This one's big, all right? This might be the biggest one on here, is if you're not careful, the culture of self-improvement can quickly turn into self-isolation. You hear things all the time like disappear and come back unrecognizable, monk mode, only you and your goal, focused, shut the world out. Like, these are all headlines you'll read, and they sound really intense because they are. That's the solution. I just got to shut the world out. I got to cut everything out and just go all in. It's the worst thing you can do for your mental health. Self-isolation, that's literally like solitary confinement. That's cruel and unusual punishment, albeit better than being locked up with a bunch of criminals in a dark cell. You're putting yourself in solitary confinement, which is not the goal of self-improvement and becoming your best self. It doesn't mean shutting out relationships. It doesn't mean closing the book on fun you can have. What you're going to end up with one day is an isolated life because you got exactly what you wanted. You shut the world out. Do you know what the number one thing that will improve you? It's not a book. It's not a YouTube video. It's a real world life experience. Experiences. Like, the things and the lessons I draw on the most came from the jobs I worked, as a teenager and in college, where I was literally like Einstein Bagel scrubbing like bacon grease off things, or an RA or a golf caddy, being on tour and being around not the average of the top 5 people you hang around, because tour is it can be blue collar. You're hauling gear in and out of venues with stale beer and piss stains everywhere, and like, it's not exactly white collar work. The experiences you draw from that are amazing. Same thing with backpacking. I went all around the world and traveled, and like, those are the core things that stick with you. Maybe your next evolution is not shutting the world out, isolating, withdrawing, but maybe it's opening yourself up and embracing it, going after experiences instead of isolation. Like, if you don't like where you are right now, you're going to have to do something different. How can you go after experiences? Like, can you travel this year? Can you make an effort to hang out with friends once a week and develop a social circle and invest in it? Because that's what it takes. It takes investing in relationships to have them. And that leads me to the most important one on this list. The question that no one asks in self-improvement that starts the whole thing. Why do I feel like I'm not enough? Why do you feel like you're not enough? You as you are right now. existing in this world, why do you feel not enough? Because self-improvement can treat you like a project that needs fixing. And the problem is that even if you get the fame, the status, the money, the relationship, whatever you think will complete you, you're still going to have that fundamental fear of not being enough there if you never question it and get to the root of it. Except now it's just going to be worse, because like if you have money and that doesn't make you happy, you're going to be like, oh my God, well now nothing will make me happy. And if you have love, but you feel lonely in the relationship because you don't love yourself, you're going to be like, now I'm really screwed. They say they love me. Why don't I feel it? Or if you get millions of followers, but you feel like you still have to prove something and you still need validation because you can't validate yourself, you're really screwed. Money doesn't change you. It makes you more of what you are. In the same way I find that love doesn't complete you, it just is a mirror and reveals what's there all along. If you're a bad person with money, you'll be a worse person. If you love yourself, when you get in a relationship, your love will be magnified because you have someone to share it with. So I think that fundamental question, why do I feel like I'm not enough, is very valuable. And there's something I've been researching a lot of recently through therapy, coaching, and just experimenting with different angles. There's a concept called toxic shame. Toxic shame is where you think you are fundamentally flawed, that you are somehow unlovable, unworthy, undeserving of success or abundance or love. And so it causes you to look at yourself and say, well, here's a hole I have. If I can just fix that, then I deserve money, love, significance, and to feel good. And so it puts you on this rabbit hole, and likely why you are drawn to self-improvement is no one really gets into this because everything's going well. At least I didn't. I don't know about you. We get into it for the opposite reason, is that things aren't going well. And we feel like low vibe or bad or something's wrong. And so we go on the internet and there's tons of great resources, and we start consuming messages that seem to have the answers to our questions and our problems. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel like I'm not enough? And if you're not careful, what you consume can be a proxy and cover up what you really need, which is more not self-improvement, but more self-acceptance. Toxic shame is there when you are willing to root for a future you, but you don't like the current you. You feel like that version doesn't deserve anything. And then when you think about the past you, sometimes you can't even think about it because it's just too cringe. You like have shame around it or guilt or any of those emotions there. The extreme end of self-improvement can keep you in that toxic shame of where you're only good once you achieve X results. You're not good enough as you are now, and definitely not in the past. And the shadow side of this is that it can cause you to take on a persona, a false self that you create and you project out on social media or in friend circles, or in my case, creating content and videos where I want to appear a certain way and I want to force things. So, I'll over prepare and over script and like try and craft jokes. And I don't know, man, like the videos I feel most proud of didn't have a persona. They were like this video I did where it was 7 books in 7 days, and I was more vlogging it and just in the moment sharing what I thought about the book. And I'm so proud of that piece of content. I'm like, that's Clark right there. He showed up for it. And then there's some videos where it feels like with this job, you just have to crank out and force for like algorithms. I'd like to say I'm above that, but dude, I've been doing this for 13 years now. It gets really stressful at times because you have so many people watching, there's pressure there. And at the same time, now there's this new pressure of like, you got to be super authentic. You can't put on the persona, dude. So this is an area that I am currently doing a lot of inner work on, is like how to show up. Who is the real version of you? Who is that authentic Clark on camera, creating content, challenging your opinions and assumptions, and not just like reciting the bits. Goal setting. Okay, got it. Let me go into presenter mode and teacher mode and educator mode. And you get reinforced for it too, because sometimes when you play an algorithm game, it does very, very well. You get millions of views. You get tons of what you think are fans or status or significance from it. That's why content creators go crazy after like a couple years of being like mainstream. I was talking to a friend who's in this space, very well known, and he's like, dude, sometimes at the gym, people come up to me and, it'll catch me off guard And then I feel like I'm letting them down if I'm not like snapping into like content creator mode. I don't always have that. There's obviously times, some days are better than others, but I feel like I'm constantly letting people down. I'm like, damn, I feel that, dude. If there was a tier, I'd be at A, B, C list. I'm like Z list, baby, right here. But whatever fraction of impact I've had on people, you know, we'll get recognized, my girlfriend and I, the airport or in the gym or sometimes at restaurants, you know, the server's like, dude, sick videos. I'm not gonna lie, there's a part of me that's like, feels really good. Baby, see that? He likes my videos. How cool is that? And then there's a part of me that's scared. Okay, I hope he leaves now because the longer we talk, the more he's gonna expect. In this video, we're talking about 3 things that'll make, I don't know if we need to say that, but YouTubers, we don't always talk in that douchey energy all day long. Well, babe, you know, there's really 3 things you can approach this work situation with. Now, I'm not saying don't have mentors. I'm not saying don't learn from people. I'm not saying that people are not further ahead than you in some things, but that doesn't mean they're absolved and exonerated from challenges. Just because someone can articulate something in a very concise, precise manner doesn't always mean it's the best hill to die on for how you should base your life decisions. Just because some guy has made a ton of money doesn't mean he has the same values that you do and that you should pursue that path as well. I've always lived by the saying, if you're gonna compare, you need the full context. People put out a very narrow sliver view of themselves online, and it's easy to take that sliver view and extrapolate it out to their whole life. Like, whoa, he has business figured out. That must mean he has relationships figured out and finances figured out and health figured out. Having been in this space, I know that is not the case. You know, there's people who will preach marriage advice and then literally like a year later, they're getting a divorce. You know, there's people who some look up to for business advice, but behind the scenes, their family's a wreck. And you got to ask yourself, like, are those my values? Like, if I take his advice, I'll get his result if I follow it completely. But are her values, who's giving me the advice, do those line up with what I authentically want deep down inside? And that's something you have to come up to and come to the conclusion on yourself. You can't outsource your values to other people. You can't outsource your opinions and insights to others as well. Just as an aside, I think it's funny how self-improvement has gotten so tied to business and marketing. There needs to be a separation between the two, because not everyone who's into self-improvement needs to be like guilted into, you know, you're a loser if you have a 9-to-5 job. To be totally honest, some days I wish I had a 9-to-5 job. Grass is greener, it looks sweet. You don't have all this pressure. Like, you get a weekend, you can leave work at work. You're not thinking about it on vacation. You get 2 weeks of vacation. And you've seen a lot of YouTube creators quit because I think it gets to the heart of what we're talking about here, this image that you have to uphold. It's so easy from afar to idolize people and put them on pedestals, but everybody is a flawed human at the core. And we all have our own journeys and our own battles we are fighting. So don't idolize anyone. They have their own struggles and challenges. And just because you have a big audience doesn't mean you always have it all figured out. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Here's another thing to chew on with self-improvement. You gotta ask yourself, is it making me feel any different? Am I finding out more of who I am, or am I just losing myself in the process? I was listening to an interview with Kat Von D, you know, the tattoo artist, and Theo Von, of all people. Love that guy, he's hilarious. They were talking about Kat Von D's evolution of exiting spirituality and like witchcraft and the occult. And I guess now she's like super hardcore Christian, you know, gave away all her witchcraft books, doesn't practice it. She blacked out her tattoos. And what she said was really interesting, and it parallels a lot of what I've noticed in different subgroups of self-improvement. She said, you know, I'd hang around all these people who said they were so spiritual and they were so evolved, but their lives were a mess and they didn't seem happy at all. And then I'd hang around people who had like more traditional values, who had great families, and they seemed like they had a strong community. You look at how their life panned out and you ask yourself the simple question, do I want the end product of everything they have? You know, I've seen people who are so into deep subgroups of spirituality and their whole life is it, and they like lose themselves in these concepts. They do not seem fulfilled and happy and grounded. Like there's no roots anywhere. Dude, I just got back from my 10th ayahuasca retreat. I feel like a different person. Do you? Because you seem way different. First time I'm ever talking about it. I'm not sure if I'll put this in here, but this year I've just felt more called back to God and religion. Might be a weird turn in this video, but I've felt it's like on my heart. Developing a more holistic view of what self-improvement is and making it something bigger than yourself. Like becoming a better person, not just because of you, but for your wife or for your family or for your community, or to have an impact that pushes people to become a better version of themselves for people around them. I want to end this with, what am I a fan of with self-improvement? Like, what does it do really well and what should it be used for? I think the positive of self-improvement is a trailhead for your own evolution. Really asking yourself, how am I going to use this? How am I going to implement this? What am I consuming for? Am I consuming to just be a philosopher, a psychologist? Maybe for some, but for a lot of us, we're just consuming to level ourselves up and evolve. And the evolution comes from upgrading your values of what's important to you. I think self-improvement's very good for challenging those, and can be. Self-improvement can also be very useful if you don't have a lot of good role models. There's room for it to be a hobby for you. Like maybe you're just super curious and you like learning about yourself and ideas and psychology and behaviorism and philosophy, and that's just like someone who studies history. They're super into really niche history that has, it's not going to change and they just love it. Then great, that's what it is. But knowing that intention of what you're using it for is so important, because now you don't have to have this checklist of where everything you're not doing causes you to feel that toxic shame of where you're not enough and you're undeserving of love. Understanding that real self-improvement leads to self-acceptance, to where you get to a point and you say, I am enough. I may not be where I want to be or the vision I have for what I'm capable of, but I still deserve love in this moment. I still deserve to feel good. I deserve to feel worthy, like I'm worthy of taking up space in conversations. I don't have to put on this role and this persona and try so hard to be this created, attractive character that everyone else has told me to be. And also, equally as important, discarding what is not true, discarding what might be not where you are on the evolution of your journey. Because some of the advice is talking to people who are 18, 20 years old. That's not always the best advice to consume when you're 32, 42 and above. So if you see that, realize that that's who it's for, and don't use it as what you're not doing or more things you need to do to feel better. Likewise, you might not align with someone's values. And once you identify what their values are, like, this person's exclusively about making money. I'm not exclusively about making money. Maybe this isn't the best person's values to follow. Whew, that feels good. I have no clue if I'm going to post this or not, but in the rare chance I do, let me know if this was useful. Let me know if you want more longer discussions like this, just kind of brain dumping. Yeah, that felt good. Thank you for listening. Love you, and stoked to be on this journey with you and leveling up. Let's go.